I feel like I'm slightly loud. Can you turn my headphones?
The headphones down?
Yeah, just slightly.
How about
Thank
now? Is
you.
this better?
Me too,
Yeah.
actually.
Do.
Thank you.
Oh, man. This is just some extra B-roll at the beginning, so when we actually... Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've already hit record.
Yeah, I always get extra B-roll just making any noise.
Another year came out 1 year before.
Yeah, I thought we
It
were
did,
talking...
okay.
Yeah, and it looks much better than Corpse Party.
Well,
that
we
is true.
saw like at 480. When it was actually like the 720, it looked pretty good.
Worth all right.
The art style is, like I'm more thinking of the art style being a bit more, that it definitely feels like it's from kind of a previous generation of anime a little bit more so.
All right.
I don't know. Do we do an intro? Boom. It's...
A podcast.
Yep.
This is the Cross ExAnime podcast, episode 5.
Yep.
Oh,
I know we need to put sticky notes up there now.
My first time being involved on this one, so I'm happy to be here.
yes,
and Alex has gone off the podcast. That's it, folks.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Yep, this
Yeah,
is our special guest for this evening, Alex. He helps us with the other podcast, the Bonwe podcast.
Check
the
it out.
podcast.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, we shamelessly plug each podcast all the time.
I think I plugged this podcast like 4 times. Another one just, hey.
Yeah.
It was only like 3 times.
Specifically, this week we're going to talk about Corpse Party because it's spooky season.
I mean, spoopy.
Uh,
Mucho spoopy.
Yeah, which this movie was not.
What's it technically a movie or was it just an OVA?
It was
Sorry. It's
It's
a 4-episode OVA, which if you watch sequentially is like a 2-hour movie.
I can't remember. Is the OVA based off the game or is the game based off... I can't remember.
I don't
guess
know
we
if
should
the
have done a
OVA
research.
is based off the game or the manga or...
Oh, that's true. Listen, the playthrough for the game is an hour and a half.
Oh, okay.
It's literally a guy does 2 parts. It's an hour and a half, so it's faster than watching
That's pretty funny.
Vamp, I'll look it up.
it. Yeah. No, but so we watched Corpse Party. We're not doing our weekly episodes. One thing I do want to plug just for Over the Moon. Great. You should watch it. I want to say it every single time. It's such an adorable series. You need to watch it, too.
I haven't seen it, so.
You imagine, like, the most lewd thing in that series is hand-holding?
Aw.
I know, it's just
Based on the Japanese video game.
So it's based off so the OVA is based off the video game?
Yes, and then I think they turned it into a manga afterwards.
Wow,
Which
that's
the
like the
manga is
complete-
rated higher.
The manga's always rated higher.
What we found out while watching... So Justus was watching me watch it just because I was doing my homework last night instead of, like, when I should have.
Yeah, I'd already seen it.
Well, we found out there's a live action.
That's not too surprising. There's
And we're
been
debating, like, what's worse?
so many
The
adaptations.
anime or the live action?
You know, it's an interesting, because usually the live action is a bad choice.
Yes. Unless it's a Cromartie.
Erased.
Well, to be fair, Erased is 1-1. So it's like,
Erased is the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that actually is better in the live action version.
you need to watch Cromartie. Cromartie High School.
Okay.
Think of a high school full of delinquents, and that's the whole anime.
Come on, guys. Death Note, clearly. Sorry.
Well, to be fair, Ryuk was like animated very well.
That's,
And that-
yeah.
and
he
I got
was.
Defoe to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So
I
it
love
was
him.
like, so Alex, if you have trash, for our podcast listeners, we finally upgraded. We have a trash can, and we have a whiteboard.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Just gonna look
so-
at it 'cause- no, but,
I think we should definitely quickly like jump into Corpse Party.
Yeah.
Corpse
what's-
Party.
do you want to
I
explain
want
what it is?
to. I want to
or-
pin. Yeah, we can explain what it is really quick. I'm gonna let you do that because you've seen it way more than I have.
I've only seen it like 9 or 10 times. You
This
know,
was my first viewing.
basically the general idea of Corpse Party is, so it starts you off right inside this high school. Some kids stayed after the culture festival, like every anime has.
Right. Yeah, it actually
And-
starts as like your quintessential high
Yeah.
school anime.
They just kind of plow through. That's the one thing the OVA does well is like within 5 minutes you meet all the characters, kind of their minimum background story. But you start in,
Their association.
it's like, what was it? It's 8 kids total, if I remember correctly? 8 kids and the teacher.
Yeah, so 9 total.
7 students.
Oh.
The little sister.
Yes, the
and
little
then
sister,
the
the
teacher.
teacher.
That's
Yeah.
Totaling 9.
Yeah.
So they're all standing there. They're telling a spoopy story. And then the teacher comes in. You're like, oh, my God. And the whole premise is these kids all are like, it's about the end of the year, if I remember correctly. And there's this ceremony
It's about
they
to be
do.
summer, I think.
Yeah, there's a ceremony based off the scary story. So they want to stay together forever. So they have this charm that's like the cutout of like a person. It's like a very generic like kind of stick figure cutout that you do. You tear these pieces after you chant, "Let's stay together
There's
forever."
like an internal chant.
It's
that
the
they do.
Sachiko Ever After charm.
Charm, yeah. And they pull it. And the problem is if you don't do it correct, then it kind of transports you to this other world. Or this median between like heaven and hell and the real world. It's kind of like purgatory kind of.
Yeah.
And then these kids have to survive this whole catastrophic event
So the way that they get pulled into this other world, it seems like it's kind of through the earthquake that happens.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that that's like localized because of this like
It's localized
ritual
to only
they're
them.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they fall through a crack, and that's when they. Now, what they tell you later on, we can get into it more. Not everyone ends up in the exact same world. Some people might be in different parts of the world.
Yeah,
it's all the same school, but there's multiple of it.
What did they
And
say?
then
They call them pockets. Like I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yep. It's a pocket, and in between, like each pocket actually connects. So eventually, you'll meet up with your other classmates. They don't say how many pockets, but conveniently,
There's
everyone.
4.
Yeah.
It's
is it
for
4?
each of the
One for
kids.
Oh
each
yeah,
kid,
that's right. And like all these murders and like this whole thing is based off like 4 kids were murdered, 3 kids were murdered supposedly.
This cursed elementary school.
Yeah, in this cursed elementary school, teacher kills 3 kids and then 1 kid made it, and then that's where this like pocket is based around. They're trying to get out, and these ghosts are trying to kill them, and there's other students that are in there because it's other people that have used or done this charm around the world. So anytime you do this charm wrong, you end up there.
Let's not forget that it seems like if you've been exposed to this place for any length of time, whether or not you're like stuck in it, that you're pretty much insane at that point.
You slowly go insane.
So, synopsis aside, opinions. Because I think I'm going to be the harshest critic here.
Okay, so even
I
if
thought
it
it
was
was fine. But man, was it bad in a lot of parts.
yeah. I mean, I've watched it a whole bunch just because it's a fun watch I do every year. But if I were to give it a rating, I would probably give it 4 out of 10.
Like if we're going to do a comparison to like Another, I think that Another is definitely the better choice.
Another is much better than
Yeah.
what this is because they have to be fair, Another's what 24 episodes? 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
been a while.
just well presented. They do a good job of kind of burying the lead of what it's going to be about in the first episode and
what all you're
yeah.
actually going to get out of it. But what did you think, Alex? I mean, if I were to give it, I'd say 4 out of 10 for the Corpse Party.
It wasn't bad.
It's a 4-episode OVA.
I'll agree with you on like the just below the halfway mark on the scoring system. Partly due to the animation style being a little slapdash, in my opinion. It's not quite as refined as some of the stuff that we're used to watching.
Even if you compare the HD version of this, which the same studio did Another, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's the same
that wouldn't
studio that
surprise
did
me. I mean,
But when you look at the animation from Another in HD and this in HD, the original rips.
and
Another looks much better,
does.
and
And
it
the
came
No,
out.
they did
modeling is-
Miraniki.
Miraniki. Well, Miraniki, sorry, when you can compare that, Miraniki's better.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks significantly better. And they were about the same time, right?
Corpse Party came out in 2013. Miraniki came out 2011, 2012.
So Miraniki's older,
Yeah,
looks
like,
better, story's
This would have
better.
been the thing that they worked on just before.
Yeah. So I mean, when you go from, you probably have a decent amount of money in budget left over from doing Miraniki because it's still one of the more popular animes out there.
I'm sure plenty of licensing rights that they own. And
Yeah. And in a Corpse Party, I mean, you're going from, because we said originally it's a game, to then got adapted to an anime, which then got a manga.
Yeah. I will say that the game is pixelized. Like, it's a top-down indie style
But even
game.
if you're doing like an actual anime, I mean, there's so much you could do with it. It still doesn't look good. That's the biggest hit. That's the second biggest hit. Biggest hit is the story. Like, it doesn't really.
There's
so many holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally holes when they fall through.
Well,
Hey.
so,
Yeah.
Panty shots, dude.
yeah.
Gosh, there's so many. And right before gore and like torture porn.
Like right when they fall in, the first thing you see when they wake up, fucking panties. Like really, like come on.
The panty shot right before the girl gets splattered against the wall.
Yeah, I mean that just takes you out of it so much.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
Well,
I think this show or OVA could have been better if they turned it into even like giving it 2 more episodes to flush things out just a little bit more. There were too many like small plot holes for me. Or even just characters that existed that became throwaways so quickly.
The glasses kid, I mean, you saw him for what, 10 seconds before they went in the hole?
Went insane
10
in,
seconds
like, the
when he said, I'm going to go
first
find
scene.
help, and then he's insane.
Yeah, he's
I mean,
insane. He realizes the person that he fell in love with is dead.
Yeah.
Was one of the
and
first ones to die.
Then
too.
immediately gets stabbed in the neck, and suddenly that person that helped save the little sister in this scenario is now going, "Oh, you saved me, but now I also have to run away from another crazy person."
Yeah.
Like there's no relief there. Also, that little kid had to pee for like an hour, and eventually she does piss herself. She would have pissed herself way beforehand. But
Also, I'm sorry, but I just have to point out that if you're in a spooky purgatory cursed elementary school and your little sister has to take a piss, don't fucking separate from them.
No, that's the biggest plot thing. Like, they kept separating, like, oh, it's fine, to it's danger. Like, he didn't care about his sister at all.
Yeah, not
he
really.
kept going, like,
It just
go.
seems like it.
Go use the restroom. That's it.
yeah, just stay with this ghost.
Yeah.
This
You'll be
ghost we
fine.
met
I'm sure
10
it's
seconds
fine.
ago that had been murdering people.
Mhm.
And he takes his sister past all those dead bodies on the steps. That's like one of the first scenes you see with him.
Right.
And he doesn't even cover her eyes. He's like, oh, don't worry. It's
It's
like,
fine.
there's dead guts and bodies. Like, what is this kid seeing that we don't know about?
All right, that's the other thing too, is just the amount of what I would consider to be torture porn, where like, you know, you're getting like the close up of somebody's tongue getting cut out, or you're just seeing guts spill every single scene for like the half of the episode.
So, to a certain degree, I'm fine with some of that stuff because it gives an added level of realism
And I'm
that
not
doesn't
saying,
exist
right, that
too
it's not
much
good.
in anime. But
It was a little overbearing.
yeah, to a certain degree, I definitely get that. I felt like the panty shots were a bit much, especially for the nature of the show.
Can you imagine if there were that many panty shots in another? Like,
Yeah.
it would have really ruined a large portion of that
Just
show.
imagine any scary movie. It's like, here you go, panty shot.
But
It takes you
So it
out.
was right before the sex scene.
I think one of the biggest things for me, though, it really is just how quickly they were willing to like throw away characters that
Yeah.
looked important, which I understand to a certain degree that can happen, but like the entire purpose of basically all of them being there is that the friend is about to move away and they're doing the charm or whatever. After they fall in, you see that friend for all of 2 minutes before she immediately gets murdered, and it's like such a level of randomness that it's like, oh, why did you? The entire narrative is built around this one character that you literally splatted against a wall,
Right.
and giving a panty shot literally beforehand.
They definitely could have built it up a lot better.
Yeah, like even to a certain degree, that the panty shot for that, like the wide where she's flying, like and the skirt going up, motion wise, that's fine. That makes sense. But the shot like before, where you're really up close and you can start to
From
see
the
like
top
outline,
down
yeah.
and-
Yeah, that's...
And then even in that scene, like the teacher just gets hit over the head, and then suddenly it's like 2 episodes later, you finally see her again. And the moment you see teacher again, she gets her fucking head cut off for no goddamn reason other than a
suddenly.
board fell through or
did-
whatever.
did
I love
feel a
how
little
you see the board. I went back and rewatched it. I don't know if you saw me watching it, but I go back real quick. I'm like, it was just like a dull piece of wood. And then when it cuts her, it's like a sharp piece of wood. I'm like, come on. Like, that's such a cop out of like, you could have had one of the other kids like walk up and like kill her.
So if I can bring up what to me is the most
No, you
glaring, what to me is the most glaring kind of like plot misstep, and maybe I like missed a scene or a line somewhere that made it make sense or something, but I swear that like in the first couple episodes, that the little girl that ultimately, spoiler alert, ultimately ends up being the killer. Was the only survivor of this thing that happened. But then later, they show her being one of the first victims of the actual killer.
Yeah. Like
So
the-
how the fuck did that happen?
I think the ghost can manipulate some of the stuff. But yeah, they read in the paper she survived.
Yeah, it's like she was recovered as one of the as the only survivor of this
And I
kidnapping.
feel
So is
like-
that how does that happen when the thing that made her a crazy murderer killed her immediately?
I think that's a thing that they could have added to it.
Yeah.
Because if they did 2 more episodes, they could have described, did the mother find out? Because all you see is she falls on the steps.
the
No,
mother
it
didn't
shows
find
the
out. The
scene.
mother was the nurse that the
mother
principal
was
killed.
the first victim, possibly accidental, because of, I think, attempted sexual assault. And then the daughter, in that same scene, finds the dead mom and is killed by the principal. So it's all within minutes of itself.
So I think in those scenarios, with the way it's supposed to be written, that happens. She's a ghost and being vengeful. The site itself exists as a regular school, and that's when she, I'm assuming, has some level of manifestation.
So she was like mistaken as a survivor.
Yeah,
Okay.
the teacher,
They
she
could have explained
coerces,
that a little
is
better.
trying to say, "Oh, look, the principal did this," but if it didn't really work crazy well for him,
Yeah.
and he went crazy. She murdered the other kids, and then that's when the principal realized what is happening, and then he jumped off the building and killed himself,
I guess that does
which
make
they
sense.
eventually
Yeah.
bulldozed the
make
school
sense in
and
the
created
fact-
the space that exists.
Right, yeah, the weird otherworldly purgatory space.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it does make sense in that it does provide the explanation of to how she was able to manipulate these other like adults into doing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
If she was a ghost already. But it just seems strange to me that she would have been like verified in a newspaper as a survivor of this event when she was the first one to die practically.
Yeah. Then
I just think that's the nature of like all the information's there. It's just not put together well.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
could have done a better
even
job
like
of demonstrating it.
they have that other ghost girl that like exists to try and help them solve it.
But actually doesn't help.
Yeah, but doesn't actually help. And then they do this cheap cop out of like, oh, we found all this info that like they found no info of. And it's like, oh, see, you
Are talking about,
actually
like,
died with your
the
boyfriend.
medium person, or
Yeah, the girl
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
like the like pentagram on her head or whatnot.
the
like-
the school medium.
Yeah, I think like you
Spiritual
said, if it had one more episode, at
Yeah.
least it would have helped the story immensely.
It could have had a lot more.
You could have done more.
more understandably linear explanation.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. It's an all right one. If you want to put something on and just enjoy a horror-based
Yeah, if you want a
anime
gory
that
horror,
like
then-
doesn't make too much sense, but you're okay with
don't have
that,
to
it's
worry
perfectly
about-
fine. We're definitely kind of nitpicking just because
Oh yeah, well, I mean we're tearing it down definitely.
I've seen a lot of anime, so I see something like this and it's like,
I took a lot of literature courses. I'm definitely sort of like naturally dissecting of archetypes.
I'm just a degenerate, so
yeah, like in my case, there's stuff there that has substance. Where if done like just a little bit better,
it would
like,
have been fantastic.
Yeah, and that's like speaking of archetypes, like they had all of the kind of recognizable like high school anime archetypes, and a lot of those kind of concepts of who people are interesting. It's why they come up so often and consistently, not just in anime but in a lot of different media.
Well, the thing is, they have, like we're saying already, they have everything to make a fantastic OVA series. It's like you have everything to make a car, blueprints, everything. They just didn't put it together right.
yeah, and that may even to a certain degree be the nature of how the game was. To a certain
Yeah.
degree, they took the information that they have, and
Kinda tried
maybe the manga's higher score is because a couple of things are fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe took their time with some of the explanations.
There are certain stuff where like the charm, the pieces of paper. At the very end, one of our main characters that we follow through the most, or the second most,
Yeah.
she doesn't have, her charm. It got lost.
Yeah.
So the boy gives her his charm. And it's like, oh well, I have my little sisters. It's fine. It's not actually his little sisters. It's some random kid. And when they go back after everything's saved, it basically only his arms exist.
Yeah,
and is dead.
I did like the ending, only because it was this like stark kind of like not a good. It was definitely a bad end.
Well, the thing is,
I didn't like that because
No.
at some point there are fucking 9 of you scattered throughout that school. You mean to tell me at no point running from the basement all the way to an outside section did you stop and just like search one of the bodies of your friend? Literally, one the friend that hung herself. Her body was drugged within the same area that you guys were at. You couldn't have grabbed another charm. Like, they're scattered all throughout the school.
Right.
Like, to think that there was never the chance that he couldn't have grabbed his own other charm.
Or at least another one that was from their group, right?
And it very much verifies that, like, because the chick lived, that as long as he had the charm from his own group, he would be absolutely fine.
Right. Could have taken a little more time too, but I guess there was a little bit of pressure on the timeline.
Here's the thing: could they not have just ripped that piece of that charm in half?
Who knows?
Maybe only half of them would have come back.
Maybe there's more like lore. Maybe the authors put out something because it's been a long time. I mean, sometimes authors.
I also didn't like the post-credit scene. I felt like if you left it off with the hands, that's fine. But for whatever reason, that post-credit scene, look, PTSD is 100% going to be a thing in this scenario.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you established that her friends that are all dead didn't exist, though within that pocket of the world, every single person that has died prior has existed after they've disappeared and died. Whether that be the medium, because the chick that sets up the entire curse
reads her stuff,
reads her blog about it, like the newspapers of all the dead children, all of them exist, but somehow the teacher now doesn't exist, her best friend doesn't exist, all of them.
I wonder if they existed while the void existed, and then when the void, I mean, that's the only way you could explain it.
And with them kind of touching on...
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
They definitely did go very specifically into like a certain subset of, I can't remember if it's actually Shinto Buddhism, but there is a specific subset of Japanese spirituality that this whole thing kind of centers around.
And this,
I just feel like for that ending to make sense, they should have established that, like, you know, that newspaper is blank or something like that. Like that entire school's problems don't actually exist, but because, you know, you mean to tell me these characters are just erased from history? Like that, it's a weird thing.
It is weird, but there's a little bit of precedent already in other media from Japan. Talking about those sorts of spiritual views.
But specifically for this show, it just feels like that scene creates another plot hole, which it didn't need to.
Like ReZero made the plot hole pretty. You know, again, ReZero. When have you seen ReZero?
I actually haven't watched all the way through.
Have you seen the white whale part? I don't want to spoil it then. But, you know, so
I know where you're going.
The biggest problem I have with this, the biggest thing is like, none of them seem to be scared when they're in this. Like, you're in this. You fall through a floor. You're separated from your friends, which your friends should have been right next to you. Yeah. You're in this old, creaky, dark, you know, house, which multiple times they're like, oh, the lights went out, we can't see. But then you see someone open the door with no light, and you're like, wait, that's a pothole. Not a pothole, but that's like a mistake there.
But that's also a common thing in anime where they'll show you because that's the visual medium they're using, even though the characters can't
but they
see.
even point out, like, when the teacher comes through, like, oh, it's teacher, and then she turns on the light.
Yeah, weird.
But the big problem is, like, none of them are getting, like, scared. Like, imagine if you're, like, let's say all of them are, like, 15 or 16. Can you imagine being 15, 16, fall through a hole?
They are.
Yeah,
they're all in high school.
Yeah,
like,
so imagine falling through. I can't remember if they were younger
falling
or not.
into another world.
Yeah, imagine you're just walking around by yourself and there's guts and everything hanging around.
There's no sense,
a bucket of tongues.
There's no sense of urgency. In anything that they
just
do.
And
like, their responses to some stuff don't make sense. Like when they solve the problem with the girl who was kind of the cause of all of it, and then they're all like, yay, we did good, smiley, happy. And I'm just kind of like, all of your friends are dead. This guy lost his little sister and they're smiling about solving this mystery.
The only time to give you any sense of, oh, this is dreadful, is when the girl gets hung and her friend is sitting there doing nothing.
Hanged.
Sorry.
That was a weird scene. And I do like that they kind of introduced that level of uncertainty about that situation, where every time she tried to help, she made it worse. And then she ends up seeing the video of herself actually killing her instead of her hanging herself.
Well, I mean, that video is like meant to be like a fake thing to psych her out.
But they did leave it ambiguous enough where it might have been the truth.
Dude, even in that situation, it was like, oh, you're going to grab like a bucket or this or that. It's like,
so dumb,
bruh, just fucking like get on your hands and knees and like let her step like on your back and have some point of elevation.
Or just piggyback. Like get her legs over your shoulders. Like,
well, that's the whole problem I have with it. Like, She dies. Her friend moans for like, I don't know, let's say an hour.
Yeah.
But then she's perfectly fine after it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you would not be perfectly fine.
Well, just like the guy wasn't traumatized about the death of his little sister, from like he really just wasn't.
He was just like, oh, it's sad.
And like at the end of all this horrible shit happening, the fact that they can smile about any of it, like fuck no. If I was in that situation, it would have been like, okay, good, let's get the fuck out of here. Very matter of fact, very serious, because that's the situation. Not like, oh yay, we did it.
Also, that dude that came back. Remember when they go back to the real world?
I don't know how he got back.
He must have either done the charm by himself, but he wasn't there to know. Because he wasn't there when they talked about, if you mess it up.
Yeah.
So he has no idea how to get back unless he did the charm himself.
I'm assuming.
But you're supposed to need, you need 2 people for the charm at least, because you split it.
And they definitely closed the portal that the ghost used to bring the girl back.
So
And that was a big pothole.
Yeah, I don't know how he came back. Also, man, it's just like at some point that entire setup of like, oh, we're back. No, we need to go back and save them, the rest of our friends. I get that to a certain degree. 2 of you are back. At the very end, it's literally the same girl and one other person that only gets to come back anyways. Right. Where it's like, you batted even. Like, you saved no one.
Mm-hmm. Like, the only perk of that is they stopped. If anybody else ever does the charm, they've saved future lives. But still, it makes no sense. In real life, if you were 15, 16, that happened, you would not be.
Yeah. Even the dude going back.
So you don't know if they're alive. They told you they.
Yeah, that specific scene where the Franken teacher, which is basically what I'll just continue to call him because he is. Yeah. I don't know if he was meant to be a ghoul. Doesn't look like a ghost or anything.
No, I think he was just like a.
It's just kind of like, what are you doing exactly? Yeah. Oh, you're gonna make zombie noises. Okay.
Well, at one point, he's wearing a hoodie in the hall, killing people. Now he's like fully dressed up. So
like, looks like a regular teacher again.
Yeah, that whole killing thing, it was a little...
but they escape, and then dude randomly reappears and is holding the door. And they like stand around, and he eventually gets punched through the gut and then punched through the face.
Well, his face, like his head falls off. Like he knocks off his whole face.
No sense of urgency.
No, you're thinking of the... bisect dude that killed the little sister.
No, but when he smashes through the window, he tears his head from his body.
Oh, does he? Oh.
Yeah, it's like a few frames. But the thing is, like, who just stands there?
Getting his heart or something punched out.
His stomach punched through, and then he was punched directly through the face.
Or something. Okay. Right out of the mouth.
And even if it was adrenaline, that's the whole problem with this movie. There's no like, oh, we're scared, we can't do anything.
And also, there's a complete lack of problem solving through the entire thing. There's a couple of people who figure out the ghost appeasement thing. But none of them can figure out how to block a door without getting themselves killed.
Yeah, so in that particular situation, that was one of the most egregious ones where you're sitting back and it's like,
why are you still sitting there?
Yeah, you're holding the door for no reason.
Yeah, because
why are they still standing there and you guys are now having a conversation? There's enough time where they don't move. He gets murdered.
He even tells them to like run right away.
Yeah, and then someone else shows up. They have a small conversation, see he's still murdered, and then leave and still get away.
And so I would say that that's the most egregious thing to me, is because that is very indicative of just a kind of a failure of the pacing of the entire show.
Also, I think it's bullshit that the little sister died.
Yeah.
There should have, to a certain degree, I get it. Maybe if you established something like differently than the circumstances that she was actually in, but like the way she died and the torture shit and the removal of the eye and all that stuff, like all of that is like absolutely like bullshit. She shouldn't have died.
Well, we were watching, the first time I ever watched it, this was Anime Club at Iowa State. There were a few people we knew that were taking anatomy up there, and they're like, they just stabbed her where the artery would be. They just stabbed her in literally the stomach. She'd be dying extremely painfully right now if she hasn't bled out with the artery. But when they pick her up, there's almost no blood. And it's like, she should have bled out in like 4 or 5 minutes. Like the leg arteries are like the biggest arteries.
Like I would say that that's at least a little more forgivable than some of the other issues, only because other things in this sort of genre make those same kind of errors.
Yeah. Like I just feel
this. Well, really quick, another stupid thing was when we're talking about when they're in the basement, when the girl has the scissors and stabs him, he could have stepped back 2 steps and not gotten stabbed.
Also,
and then he just walks
fucking kid in the kindergarten. Like, you mean to tell me you, as a high schooler, can't power an 8-year-old.
Well, I think the idea is
ghosts,
there are
but-
ghosts.
Yes,
But
but
even
even to a certain degree, like, come the fuck on.
It was
Like,
kind of funny to me that they all managed. You see it several times. They all managed to fall into this like strength comparison category where they're able to almost stop it from happening, but then get overpowered. And it's
Yeah.
just kind of like so, like that's just. It's just not realistic. It's just not how people's variances in strength are going to be. Even if all the ghosts were exactly the same, it would still be different per individual.
I just think it's stupid. He stood there while getting stabbed when he could have taken 2 steps back.
There were a couple points where people could have very easily avoided injury or death and didn't.
Yeah. There was so stupid. It's
So it's not. I'm not going to say that it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I mean, like I would definitely recommend it to people who are looking for like a spooky thing to watch.
Berserk
for this time of
2017 is
year.
the worst thing I've ever seen.
do what?
Have you ever seen Berserk 2017?
Oh, yeah.
That's when they literally hold the person and they shake their mouse thing to make sure like they're actually doing the movements. I'm like, oh my god. No, but all in all, I think 4 out of 10. It's giving maybe a little too high of a rating. Like you said, if they had one more episode, I feel like they could have completely done this a lot better.
I feel like 2 more episodes to flush either certain scenarios out or the what's the
If you're
best
just
way to,
basing it off a game, you have so much free reign over.
And I guess that's one thing too, is like it is one of those things where turning an anime into a game or turning a game into a show or categorically not great track records on those sorts of adaptations.
Yeah. I mean, they're supposed to be doing a movie adaptation of the indie game To the Moon, which I hope turns out absolutely amazing whenever they eventually get around to doing it.
Yeah.
But for something like Corpse Party, I'm trying to figure out the best way to like word this. Another had those moments that Corpse Party doesn't, where the kills were truly impactful.
Yeah.
You know,
You see
if
the
I
effects
say
on the characters.
Umbrella, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But
I do
for
like that
for Corpse Party specifically, if I say Splat, you know what I'm talking about, but it doesn't have any levels of impact because it was such a quick like throwaway thing
immediate.
compared to how like
everything
the
else
build
hit.
up of like things are off in the school and all of that, and then suddenly like the kid gets killed by her own umbrella and stuff like that.
And that moment, like that's such a fast thing that happened. And yet it was portrayed in a way where it didn't feel rushed and you could like get the full impact of what happened. And even though it's this like instantaneous thing, 2 steps down and she dies immediately, it was still very, and I'm not saying like just gory or just, like it just, they did a good job with the pacing in that show. They did a good job with the pacing of every individual part that was supposed to be important or impactful to the story or the characters.
Yeah, I also didn't get the issue of you can't go outside except for this one magical hallway that is 2 sections of the school, and you can go out that way.
Because it still has a roof.
Which, by the way, like I would understand if there was some like magical shit where if you attempted to walk, out, or it would block you from like going over the fence.
Establishing
But but as you see with the little girl or the little sister, she could 100% climb over that. Like there were bodies strung in the
She was
in the
definitely going
field.
to, yeah.
Like there was.
Well, that's the thing that pissed me off with brother. Just don't go to the tree line. There's like 40 dead bodies out there. What are you doing?
like right next to the, that whole
And
whole scene didn't make sense.
that's when he leaves her with the ghost. It's like, I'll be inside if you need me. I'm like, what?
Yeah, why wouldn't you stand there and wait?
In that exact same area, the like ghost memory, the echo, a lot of places or like shows and movies call it, of the principal killing himself over at the side of the building. It played that thing like 3 times in a row. You could have easily got away with doing it twice.
Not only
Like,
that, but none of those 3 times were the same.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some weirdness. There were a lot of opportunities for them to further explain certain events or anomalies. There was a lot of opportunity for them to alter the way that the pacing laid the story and the groundwork for the story out. And they just kind of softballed it in there and then tried to hardball it in with the gore instead.
And I know that there are 2 OVAs besides this of Corpse Party, but it's literally like the couple days leading up to the incident. So you get more familiarized with the characters like as a whole.
Yeah.
Which cool, maybe it adds a little bit more impact and stuff like that, but maybe this needs like the brotherhood treatment that Fruits Basket's getting, that Higarashi's getting, though Higurashi is kind of like a pseudo sequel.
Heck, isn't even Neon Genesis Evangelion getting that treatment?
No,
They have
getting
a
the
3.0
final
plus 1.0
okay.
alternative. It's
it's basically supposed to be like the official final.
yeah. The thing is, the first final they ever did was they ran out of money halfway through, so now they got to do an actual final.
Yeah.
Even as one of those series that gets iconic, people know they get screwed over all the time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, well,
it's
that's
not a good
also
one to finish.
Gynex's fault for not like allowing distributing rights and shit like that.
there's a lot of problems
Like if
with
you're in the process of always being a stubborn bastard, you kind of get what you deserve.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think giving it a brotherhood treatment, like FMA or Fruits Basket,
could be good
it would be good
because of all those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And maybe like I don't know what the manga is like.
Yeah,
I may try to check it out.
That, yeah.
I know it's available on Right Stuff. It's like $7 per manga.
Okay.
There's 11 volumes,
Oh,
so
wow.
there's like a good amount of material
Like
there.
that right there already shows you that they fixed the pacing problems. That they took the time that they needed to fill it out and explain what was happening more. Mm-hmm. Hence, probably the better ratings.
Yeah, and maybe even if they did that, give it 24 episodes. Do the OVA like the prequel stuff, like fully establish your characters. Then 3 episodes in, get to that pivotal point, or start at the pivotal point where they fall, but immediately do a flashback and then establish the characters that you're going to get invested in.
They even could do kind of the same thing that like Modica Magica did, where the series exists and then the set of movies that covers the same events exist, but they both are cyclic onto each other. One ending goes into the beginning of the next because of the time travel stuff in that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you're already doing stuff where you're going to like this kind of parallel, like purgatory world, this cursed place, and stuff like that. Like, who's to say that you couldn't do something like that where like these events kind of just replay themselves and it's presented differently because it's, a different production, but you can still kind of loosely tie that into being a direct continuation from the first part of it, as it were.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm getting a little too meta there, but
I mean, there's a bunch of different options. Like one of the crazy things for me is the fact that, yes, what is it? Her name, Chico. Is that
the
little girl?
The little girl, yeah,
the little girl.
Seiko or Shaco, maybe. No, Shaco's not right.
Sachiko.
Sachiko.
So, Sachiko. I understand that she is the core vengeful spirit. She watched her mother get murdered. You would think that, to a certain degree, the principal would also exist within some realm there in that school. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a double murderer, and, I mean, yeah, he killed himself, but so did the damn teacher, and he exists in some capacity within that world. Like, it could be a thing where, for a brotherhood aspect, like maybe it's an entirely different crew of people, but the main individual behind it is actually the principal that like was truly running things. Right. Where it's like,
and since he was the
you
root
tormented
cause,
my life, like reestablishing that world and creating a lockdown kind of thing.
Even if they did redo it, I mean, they could go off and say, yeah, you thought you closed the portal, but you actually forgot to do this one thing for the principal,
or even
because they handled the teacher and the kids, but I don't think they ever handled the principal
really,
thing.
No.
Yeah.
Just a way to get back
short
in.
short of discovering that was like the trigger cause for this happening to the girl.
Yeah.
That was really the only role he played in that at all. And it definitely, like you said, it feels like he would have been more involved in the like dark spirit side of all of this.
Mm-hmm. Also, somehow they fucking, especially at the very beginning, they make that principal look like, oh, the sorrow principal threw himself. How in the hell do you not suspect that something foul like play had happened? Especially when you like see the flashback and you realize the nurse's blouse is wide open and it clearly looks like a sexual assault, and then you're like, she fell down the stairs and her boobs popped out, I guess. And even within that, like, I don't know. It was just, there's plot holes in this damn thing.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how long we've got.
We're at 40. So
40.
I didn't think we'd actually get this far just on.
Yeah.
Ooh, but the next, did we want to discuss the next podcast?
Really quick.
Okay, that was really quick.
Higurashi, shut up. So Higurashi's currently in the middle of doing a reboot, sub-sequel, prequel
just
thing.
a remake. It's literally just a remake.
It's a remake, but certain elements are repositioned kind of thing, based on what everyone is saying that have seen it in its entirety.
Yeah.
There are certain things that are being introduced way earlier.
Yeah, they fixed a lot of the timeline issues. So.
Yeah, I was wrong. Rika is totally crazy. Like the last episode, she 100% went on a stabbing spree.
Well, the whole thing about Higurashi, not to spoil it, but it's like, it's weird because there's different sets and timelines where it's like, this will happen, then magically it's just like, nothing happened, here we go, we're going again. Now someone else goes.
Yeah. So
not to spoil too much, but that's the whole plot.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think it's an interesting show. And horror show wise, there's, the core staples, another Higurashi. Yeah. I would 100% count Erased in this.
Yeah, it hits
Erased?
It hits a similar.
Yeah,
it hits a similar.
Really. It's not really. It's a thriller. It's not really a horror.
But it's still like a paranormal thriller. In a lot of
he
ways.
just goes back in time and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
say that's it, but mom is murdered, and
have you guys done an episode on Erased?
No.
I'd be down to do one of those whenever you guys were.
Listen, next episode's Boku no Pico.
I don't think we agreed on this. I have.
Why not Toradora? Come on.
Well, my God, Toradora! Did you hear what I said in the other room when Shelby was here? She was on the podcast we just recorded. She put the donut over here. I was like, oh, it's like Toradora.
I think I didn't catch that.
And I was like standing, like, oh, no one got my reference.
I wouldn't have known.
Toradora is probably the best rom-com anime of like those couple years.
I just love the character introduction. Is just so like, what a great way to kind of like make an impact with these characters, not only on each other but on the audience, and still have all this room for like change. And
all right,
growth.
goddammit, that's too lovey-dovey. We're talking about horror.
It is the wrong time of month for that. Yeah.
Yeah. To a certain degree, I would count Erase kind of within that, because all of these are supposed to have some high levels of suspense building.
Yeah.
Corpse Party doesn't do it very well.
They don't really do it at all.
Yeah.
Did they even try?
There are much more subtle stuff that I felt like they could have done in the background.
Yeah. And I won't knock them too much because I never looked at the source material, which is the game, which is like fair. PS Vita, which like good luck, getting one of those sub $200.
Yeah. So I think that if you want to watch something, Higurashi is currently airing. Maybe give that a try. Mm-hmm. If you're interested, even after we've basically done a 50-minute rip on Corpse Party, I would still recommend it just so you have an idea of the
that whole thing's just
currently.
on YouTube.
Heck, I mean, I would even say maybe consider, especially if your only other choice as far as like what you are aware of in this sort of genre in anime is something like Corpse Party. Maybe break genre a little bit, maybe break medium and go and do some other paranormal mystery like Bly Manor or something like that.
There's a couple out there. I think Ghost Hunts. That's an older, not older. I think it's like 2013.
Ghost Stories.
I think it's Ghost Stories.
I can't remember if it's...
we don't talk
wait,
about
no,
wait. That's the one with the bad dub.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about I have to go look it up.
And in the ways of like suspense thrillers with some horror aspects, The Promised Neverland is a good one. The first season.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen it,
Though-
but I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah,
Good things.
it's pretty good. It definitely
Tasty.
tears away from the horror suspense. Well, the horror part, but it really does keep the suspense thriller in there. But yeah, another is pretty good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
another's
They just-
definitely like that's probably one of
That's
the
better
most
presentation.
noticeable. Like when you think horror anime, another's probably your like.
Presentation is good, and they really do bury the lead in that first episode. They make it look like it's going to be a ghost story, and it's not. It's completely different. It's very much curse focused again.
Another show is Angels of Death, which is based off of the game as well. I would say it's kind of along the lines of Corpse Party. I think I'm the only one here that's officially seen that.
Yeah,
I haven't.
It's kind of subpar in ways of its delivery.
Yeah.
But it's always fun to explore. Like I am a big fan of either like shonen or romantic comedies or even heavy romance focused stuff. One of my favorite shows currently this season is Adachi and Shimamura, and that is like
so adorable,
so love heavy that like I've got zero problems with it. But I always think that at some point, deviating to find something different and maybe a different genre is always a good thing no matter what. Anyways,
That's the beautiful thing about the medium of anime is just that it really does cover the full spectrum of genres, just like American television that we're used to.
So next episode, we are going to talk about...
Sorry, there was a sale on something. I have to make sure I snag it in time. I'm so sorry. Like I got the notification like 1 hour sale. It's like, no, Weathering with You.
Oh my God.
Have you seen it?
Oh, it's so good.
Oh shit, we should watch it all again.
I can be part of that one, if you want.
Dude,
I love
it
that
hits
show,
like
that movie.
Did you see it in theaters or
I did, yes.
We all saw it. Did we see it together, you and I?
No, I saw it. No, I
Dude.
saw it by myself because
Okay.
you didn't want to go.
I'll
No,
be
I think
real.
I had work that day.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to go.
If you're looking for a good anime movie that's good to watch like with an SO, like with a significant other or something, that's the one to go with in my opinion.
Trying to say something about me, Alex?
Maybe.
Oh, bon nuit.
Weathering with You is written and produced by Makoto Shinkai,
Yes.
the wonderful gentleman that has done Your Name,
Also a very
Garden
good
of Words.
like,
Garden of
romantic-based
Words,
5
story.
centimeters per
5
second.
centimeters, yeah. And then there's also another thing that he helped work on.
Well, the thing is, the movies. We should do that one time. There's a marathon of like do a 1 hour podcast of just
a Shinkai-a-thon.
yeah.
Yeah, but I would love to watch Weathering with You again, but I can definitely talk. I mean, it's in my head still.
Because
like,
we're
that
doing
I'm
this
really
one and another
watched.
one because we're trying to give the regular anime right now a
Yeah.
chance to build up, so we have a lot to talk about.
yeah.
And then we're fixing our schedule because Justus's work schedule switched, and I can switch mine
So
relatively
are
easy.
we doing this week Thursday, or are we doing the following week Thursday?
Following week.
Oh,
Okay,
Thursday.
gotcha.
So there'll be a big gap in between.
Yeah,
That's
That's
which
okay.
should give us more to talk about anyways.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think the plan is record on Thursdays, upload Saturdays. Because right now we're recording Mondays, uploading Wednesday. So, and then I've been getting better. Like the editing on this has gotten a lot easier. So, turnaround time on it. I mean, I edited the last one in like maybe 10 minutes.
Change the schedule as much as you guys need to for now because I'm open.
Every week will be different.
But we'll see. That's going to change when things kind of open back up. So
Specifically for next week, I want to do a hybrid. I want to both talk about Weathering with You because I think we'll have a good bit to talk about. But
I mean, there's just so much depth to that. movie.
We did 50 minutes on.
yeah, well, I mean, we got pretty in depth on how bad certain parts were, though.
Weathering with You, it rained.
Yeah, so
And then it didn't.
specifically the two things that I want to talk about is the movie itself, but also because it has those emotional parts. Movies or anime, like anime movies or the TV series
Yeah.
that have made you cry
Oh gosh.
or like super emotional.
Oh gosh, you want to talk about a super Bly Manor? Oh my god.
Wait, that's not
I
anime.
know.
Fuck off.
I
Listen,
know.
the saddest things
Gonna
I've
talk
seen
about it
this year,
next time.
Justice keeps throwing at me.
What? Oh.
That'll be for next week.
What?
I'll tell you after the show. We got to make the audience come back next
But,
week to
yeah.
hear it. It's all
Yeah,
about drama.
I feel like those two can work, kind of hand in hand because Your Name is also fairly an emotional movie,
Yeah.
but I have two movies, and you know the two movies that are way better at it.
Oh, really?
On the emotional side, yes.
We got to make him watch the one that you made me watch.
Yeah,
Because
I do.
it's not that long, right? It's only an hour 10 or something like that.
Definitely
it's
having a
like an
discussion
hour and a
about
half.
these after.
So, yeah, I just want to talk about those because
Now I'm curious.
You're going to cry.
Yeah,
Don't be ashamed.
I already do that. I
would-
mean,
it's healthy to cry sometimes. So
It's not healthy to
talking
cry
about-
that much.
So talking about shows that specifically make you us cry is, I think, should be interesting.
the next episode's theme.
Stay tuned next week for your episode of Cross ExAnime.
Well, thanks for having me on
Bye-bye.
the show this time, guys. That was
You're
fun.
welcome for having you on.
Now you have to be on again,
That's
Yeah.
fine with me.
which means you're gonna eventually just become a regular here too. It's gonna be an extended fucking thing where it's like, all right, well, we've recorded one podcast, now to move to another one.
Yep.
We're just gonna end up with like 4 different casts to record every time.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Check out Bon We.